Well, hopping on to do a ninja fast Facebook Live this morning, just because of a prayer time that I got out of yesterday. I really felt like this was an important topic for us to talk about this morning. And our topic of conversation is deliverance in our lives doesn't always feel like comfort. Amen. And I think this was such a blowing concept for me, that how could I be walking through a season of deliverance in my personal life? How could God actually be pulling me out of that Egypt season in my life, and yet it feels so different than I thought it would? Amen. And so that's kind of what we're going to be touching on a little bit this morning. It's good to see you guys. So I want to pick up and just do a very basic outline of a story that you guys are very, very familiar with. So we see the Israelites and how they are actually coming out of Egypt, right? God is delivering them. He has heard their prayers. They're finally going to get to come out of slavery. They're finally going to get to come out of bondage. And I'm sure in the Israelites' minds, they were thinking, yes, we're going to be in this land full of milk and honey. We're going to be, doing so much better. We're going to have all this comfort around us. It's going to feel so good. And what are they met with? They're greeted with a wilderness season. They're greeted with everything feeling so unfamiliar and leaving the quote unquote comfort of their comfort zone and of Egypt. Sometimes captivity in our lives, you guys, feels comfortable. Amen. So think about it. The Israelites, when they were in Egypt, they may not have been doing super well, but at least they had reliable food, right? They had places to live, right? They knew where their neighbors were. They had, connections. They had all this stuff, you guys, but yet they were still in a place of captivity. And so when God said it's time to be delivered, they had to make a conscious decision to leave behind the comforts of home, to leave behind what they had known, even though it wasn't healthy for them, and to step into a place where God could prepare them for the promise that He had for them down the line. And so I don't know about you guys, but a lot of times when I'm praying for deliverance or for God to move mightily in an area of my personal life, I assume that means that God's going to bring comfort. I didn't know that a lot of the time that when God is in the process of delivering you, it's going to feel a little uncomfortable. Why? Because what did God have to do with the Israelites before they were allowed to enter the promised land? He had to challenge old mindsets, right? He had to prepare them before He could just allow them to waltz into the promised land, or they could abort their destiny, right? And so the Israelites went into this season of feeling like they were homeless. They went into this season where they literally were carrying their stuff around with them, right? Where they were having things challenged that they were so familiar with, mindsets, you guys. The Bible talks about over and over again how when the Israelites were in the wilderness, complaining was a problem, you guys, and God was trying to get that stuff out of their spirit in the wilderness before He could step them into their destiny. The whole purpose of them walking through that wilderness season was not just to torture them, but it was to help them to get to the place that God had wanted to get them to all along. And so when the Israelites first started to get delivered, it looked like discomfort. Amen. They were coming from Egypt, and even though they didn't have everything that they wanted there, it was comfortable. They knew it. It was familiar to them, right? And it was a faith step, right? For them to step out and do something so drastically different. And then when they took that faith step, rather than being greeted by immediate comfort and ease and feeling good, they were met with a lot of hardship, right? They were met with eating manna for days on end. Amen. They were met with being kind of picked up from their current surroundings and placed in a very unfamiliar territory. They were met with having to follow God day by day with their faith and not knowing where they were going the next day or when they were going to move. You guys remember how the Israelites followed that cloud and that pillar of fire. And so imagine completely picking up your family, relocating, right? And just not knowing where you were going to be the next day. isn't it crazy the faith steps that they were having to learn how to take before they could enter their promised land? And so it felt like discomfort. Some of you guys who are watching today may be looking at a season of discomfort in your life and you don't even know it, but God has already begun the process of deliverance in your personal life. Amen. But it looks so different from the way that we imagine it. A lot of the time we imagine going immediately from that Egypt place into our promised land directly. Amen. We imagine going from point A to point B, and we imagine getting a relief as a part of our deliverance, right? We want that, feel good feeling. We want to be able to step into that place of promise so easily. But often, you guys, what happens is, before every single promise in your personal life, God has to take you through a testing season, a refining season, so that you can steward what He has for you down the line. And so I want to encourage you guys today, if you feel like that's you, and if you feel like, man, God, I never imagined that when I took this step out in faith for you, that the circumstances would look harder in some ways. I never imagined that when I took this step out for you, that it would seem like your voice was so quiet. I never imagined that I was going to have to depend on you so much in faith day by day before I see the fruit of this breakthrough that you have promised me. I want to encourage you guys today, don't give up, because deliverance in our lives, you guys, doesn't always look like comfort, and that's normal, you guys. And I want to tell you guys that if you're in that place right now of refining fire, if you're in that place right now, God only has you there because He has a promised land for you on the other side. God does not lead you into wilderness seasons unless He has a promised land for you on the other side. That is His goal for your life. But a lot of times to get there, so many people never reach their promised land because they're not willing to leave a place of comfort, right? Egypt was comfortable for the Israelites, right? It was dysfunctional, but it was comfortable. They knew where their food was. They had housing, they were very familiar with their way of life. And it took so much for them to step out in faith and to really trust God and to allow Him to walk through this processing season with them before they could reach the other side. So I want to encourage you guys today, keep going, don't give up, and just remember your promised land is coming. But the faster you allow God to prepare you and to strengthen you, the faster you can step into what He has for you on the other side. Don't give up today. Hope you guys have a great morning. I'll talk to you soon.